So,
There you go.
welcome everyone. This is Speck of Dust. We're doing album reviews for Relics from the 80s. And anyway, I have a section for 80s I keep in a different room that I hardly ever visit, but I know there's some gems in there. And mine straddle the beginning of the 80s, the very end of the 80s, one British woman and one American woman.
So, from my vast store of 80s records, I chose one from Raleigh, North Carolina, and one from Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, I too first achieved consciousness in the musical consciousness, at least in the 80s. And so I've got a whole bunch of stuff from then. More to the point is the two records I've selected are, I think, pretty unusual ones for the period. Well, two projects that I think never really got the recognition they deserved. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'll get started here with Vivien Goldman, Revolutionary, subtitled Songs, 1979 through 82. So I guess it qualifies as 80s. This is a comp derived from EPs. She was in the Flying Lizards, and some of those tunes came from recording sessions with them. Of course, she was in the Slits, the main songwriter and rhythm guitar player. And this is, well, probably categorized as post-punk, but it's that kind of post-punk where post-punk was veering into dub influences. So this is one, sounds wonderful. It's really deep. It's mixed by Adrian Sherwood and, believe it or not, produced by John Lydon. It also has percussion by Robert Wyatt and guitar by Keith Levine from Pill. So, but it sounds quite different than Pill. It's a lot deeper, more narcotic. It has experimental soundscapes, spoken word, all contained within pop forms. He also has got a Congolese guitar player playing traditional runs, Bob Marley cover. She's also prone to toasting, especially on the most popular song. And here's how it goes. If
the heavy metal boys are the boys in blue, don't like the look of you, you better watch out.
And then she starts chanting,
if you can't get a hard on, get a gun.
Over and over again. She's also a you see, author, sort of a post-punk spokesman, and I keep this in my 80s. Next, I have, this is a little more rare and is American. This is Kendra Smith and Opal. Early recordings from 1989. This is also derived from EPs. There's also an earlier Opal record, which has a lot more noisy guitar and hard psych. This one is really much more of an Americana, but experimental sort of record. Starring Kendra Smith and Dave Roebuck, who contributes lots of great slide guitar on acoustic and electric guitars, and Keith Mitchell, who plays drums. He's one of the most sought-after drummers from LA at the time, and he really deserves it. It's like perfect sort of magical interaction between this band. There's just a lot of intuition in their playing. And of course, Kendra Smith was bass player for the Dream Syndicate, and Dave Roebuck was head of the Rain Parade, and that's where they met. They were in different bands and part of the Paisley Underground in LA, which I don't think much of. And this is a very different record, much more folk, rock. In fact, it's a mystical folk rock blues hybrid with a wonderful voice and sparse instrumentation. Of course, Dave Roebuck went on to make Mazzy Star, and that's sort of a different animal. This is sort of proto Mazzy Star because it's him and a woman singer that sings all the songs, but it's much earthier. So Kendra Smith went on to record 2 solo records in sort of a disappearing act to the Pacific Northwest. Supposedly that last record was recorded with solar and pump organ and she sings about maggots. She's living off grid, and it's sort of interesting. It's also got these neat Art Nouveau graphics. And there was a reissue of this planned, and they printed a bunch of records. They didn't go forward with the reissue. So a lot of those are out there in a plain wrap format. And those sound really good, and they have extra songs. This particular record is sort of hard to find. Bye-bye. Chris is up.
All right. Thank you, Jackson. So the first record I chose, perhaps Lagos, Nigeria, was a giveaway. I chose a Fela record. I think this is probably not one of his better known ones. This is Beasts of No Nation from 1989. This is a super political record. Fela Kuti, I don't know if he needs any introduction, but he's sort of known as, the father of Afrobeat, like West African James Brown, something like that. This record comes quite late in Fela's career. He had been putting out records at this point for, 20 years or so. This is kind of a return to form. He had spent most of the 80s putting out not very good records. This was following, repeated confrontations with the Nigerian government. This one is as good as anything else in his discography. This stacks up well with his 70s stuff. It's essentially one really long song. As is typical for him, he takes about 15 minutes of instrumentation before you hear a vocal. His band is in top form. I counted no fewer than 29 members of the band, which, again, that's pretty typical for Fela in these years. Just these sort of sinuous, sidewinding horns. A very political message. You can see he's got Reagan, Thatcher, and that's South African, apartheid state leader P.W. Botha right there. So this is very time of it. This is a record of its moment in the late 90s. But it's an indictment of essentially the Western international political system. And the music is just captivating, just hypnotically funky and humble. It'll be going through your head days later. So that's album 1. Album 2, also political. Corrosion of Conformity's first record, Eye for an Eye. These guys are from Raleigh, North Carolina. This record came out in 1984. They are still around. In fact, 3 of these 4 guys have formed the core of the band all the way through all these years. Though the band itself is morphed from hardcore punk into sort of like southern hard rock / sludge, and then back to hardcore punk, and then etc. But as their debut, it's pretty raw. A lot of people, if you're talking about the hardcore version of COC, they're going to cite their second album, Animosity. But I kind of like this one better. It's less polished. It's actually really advanced for its time in its melding of metal and punk. You get blazing fast rippers that last about 22 seconds, but you also get these sort of sludgy breakdown parts that are just right out of Black Sabbath. And at one point on the second side, they actually just straight up quote the start of Black Sabbath's Under the Sun to begin a song. But yeah, there's a lot of Sabbath in here. There's a lot of Black Flag. They even do a cover of Fleetwood Mac's Green Manalishi, which is just really fucking heavy in their hands. These guys groove. Even at this early sort of formative stage of their career, these guys fucking rock. And that's not easy to do. So, great record. Eric, what do you got?
This is perhaps antithetical to to really all of the music discussed so far, because it's really antithetical to just about everything. Very unique sound. Tuxedo Moon, Desire, 1981, on Ralph Records, and it sounds nothing like The Residents. Tuxedo Moon was the core of the band was a violin player, saxophone, and a bassist with a drum machine. And they create these very minimalist but lush songs that veer into pop territory, but actually stand somewhere far, far outside of it. This is their second full length, and after the equally fabulous Half Mute. Good, and I think what makes it so good is its enigmatic quality. There's from one song to the next, things really change dramatically. You've got a violin heavy track followed by a saxophone track, followed by something that is just this kind of driving drum machine and bass, and the vocalist will also change from one song to the next. Throughout, you've kind of got this theme of urban alienation and modern anomie, I suppose, would be the standard textbook ways to describe it. The term post-punk is bandied around a lot, but that often doesn't work for describing things. This isn't post-punk at all. Although chronologically it kind of fits in there, it's just kind of something what people who had technical abilities on instruments could do in the wake of the sort of freeing up of form that happened with punk. I think there's a lot of feeling that goes into this, but it's kind of like this weird outsider feeling that you are invited to experience. So Tuxedo Moon, as the Ralph Records slogan said at the time, "Buy or die." All right, and then the second one, I don't even know how to pronounce this. So this is ISM R, which this is basically a late no wave record from New York that Elliot Sharp is behind. The album is called R. What, if anything, this stands for is not clear. The song titles go on to make it clear that the band is out to sort of confound you with song titles such as HM3 SPT LOD. If you look closely at the album cover, you can see it's a pile of skulls. And I don't know, it looks like a sort of something from the Khmer Rouge days. And that kind of is a good approximation of what it sounds like. This is very violent, raw music, but it's also jazz. It's jazz with a kind of rock beat to it. This is a lot like what in the 90s would become known as math rock, I suppose. Only again, it's really got this wonderful primal aggressiveness. Goes back to the more pure-blooded no-wave stuff of the 70s. Loud, skronky, semi-incoherent. This is, but with a driving backbeat to kind of keep you in the saddle. This is a good wild ride through, the Lower East Side.
Dark interlude.
It's just kind of this bellowing that occurs intermittently.
Of those in the know.
Music concrete.
About music concrete. Now, this...
John gets
the neon light at like 4 a.m, watching a bug crawl.
Yeah. That's it.